Hey, it's me, Ball33, and welcome back to my RareWare Retrospective reviews, and this time we're checking Donkey Kong 64 for Nintendo 64. So I'm finally here, recording for you. If you know the words, you can join in too, but be pretty strange if you did. But anyways, like myself and many others, many people really like this game, but unfortunately when the time went on, most of those people find out its weaknesses and flaws. The question is, do I agree with them, or is this game always been great? Let's find out. Donkey Kong 64 began development in 1997 and went under different code names like Donkey Kong World, Donkey Kong Universe, Ultra Donkey Kong, and of course Donkey Kong Country 64, which I'm a little surprised they didn't go with that name. Originally it's supposed to come out in 1998 for the Nintendo disk drive. Now I'm assuming most of my viewers are familiar with the disk drive and know that it's a huge commercial failure. So pretty much RareWare has to redo the whole game and make it for the original Nintendo 64. I think it's a good thing that they redo the game and make it come out in 1999, because in 1998 Banjo-Kazooie was going to come out, and having two RareWare platformers come out on the same year would have been a little much, in my opinion. After Rare's Banjo team finished their game, some of the members went over to the Donkey Kong team so they could finish their game faster. And you can tell, if you know the backstory of Banjo-Kazooie, that some of its unused assets went to Donkey Kong 64 development, like Fungus Force and some of its music. Development was going great until RareWare kept on encountering this game-breaking glitch. The only way that they could fix it is to make it compatible with the expansion pack. The expansion pack gives the game more memory, and although there's plenty of game that uses it, only 3 of them absolutely requires it, and that's Donkey Kong 64, Perfect Dark, and The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask. Anyway, that's it for the backstory of Donkey Kong 64, but there is one more thing I want to mention, and that's the DK rap. Now, in my last retrospective, I said that Jeff or Gemini had the best opening theme song of any game. Well, Donkey Kong 64 had the worst opening theme song of any game, and well, that's not me talking, that's most of the people who play this game talking. The reason why they think it's so bad is mainly because of the lyrics, how lame they are, as you can see in the subtitle on the bottom. I encourage you to give it a listen, because I think it's one of those songs that is so bad it's kind of good. But anyways, if this song is so bad that Grant Kirkhope, the composer of Donkey Kong 64, and this rap song in particular, even admits that it's bad and even apologizes for it. The story of Donkey Kong 64 begins with showing DK Idle, the main helper of the game, all peaceful and quiet, until King K. Rool returns with his giant ship, which is also a weapon mass destruction. Then we cut to King K. Rool talking to his minion, and they reveal that they kidnapped all the main Kongs except for Donkey Kong himself. Now it's up to Donkey Kong to rescue his friends, stop King K. Rool, and destroy all his machines. The story I just summarized sounds like it's short and to the point, but unfortunately the opening scene in this game is actually a lot longer and it's non-skippable. Well, at least we get a little voice acting in it, and this is my favorite version of King K. Rool. His voice is very menacing and he sounds like he means serious business this time, so much so that he works his crew to the death and get rid of the one who tries to escape. He reminds me of Dr. Robotnik from the original Sonic Saturday Inc. TV show. Sadly, this is the only voice acting we get, at least in cutscenes. We get our usual grunts from our heroes and enemies. The rest of the cutscenes are done in text. In the beta version of the game, there was actually more voice acting, particularly in this one boss battle with the armadillo.
You dare challenge me? I must crush you!
There are 5 playable characters in this game. You start with Donkey Kong and get the others throughout the game, usually by rescuing them. Now every Kong has a similar moveset, so I'll briefly talk about the ones that has unique abilities. Donkey Kong is your standard character. There's not much unique about him, but he does have some unique abilities, like he can use a power barrel to become invincible, he can pull levers which opens other areas, kind of a rare unique ability in my opinion, and he's one of 2 characters that can use an animal buddy, Remy in particular. And to get this out of the way, there's only 2 times to use a animal buddy. One is in the first world, Jungle Javes, and the other one is in Gloomy Gang. Diddy Kong is much faster and can jump higher compared to the other Kongs. He also has a jetpack ability, which now becomes a staple move in future Donkey Kong games, and he can use a spring jump. Tiny Kong can also shrink, hence the name, can hover, similar to Dixie Kong, and can run and jump as high as Diddy Kong. And getting back to that hover comment, it says in the manual that Tiny Kong is the younger sister of Dixie Kong, and makes me wonder, why not use Dixie Kong? Well, besides not having the ability to shrink, which they could just give her that ability, it would make more sense to have Dixie Kong than Tiny Kong. I don't think RareWare ever explained this decision. And well, I don't think I'm going to have another opportunity to talk about this, but Tiny Kong's redesign kind of weirds me out a bit. She went from this little kid to this more teenager-like appearance, and it was Nintendo decision, and they pretty much put this in their future games. The weird thing about this is that not only that she looks older than the other Kongs who hasn't aged a bit, but they describe her as the youngest of the Kong and still as Dixie Kong's little sister. Nikki Kong, also new in this game, can inflate, walk on soap similar to Kazooie on Banjo-Kazooie, and stretch his arm, giving him the longest range in physical attacks. Last but not least, we have Chunky Kong, who is the strongest of the group. He can pick up boulders, become a giant, become invisible, and he can break walls down. You also have supporting character that gives you weapons and abilities. Cranky Kong gives you potion that gives you new moves. Some that are exclusive to a Kong, and even though Cranky Kong had never been a scientist in the past games, he was one in a TV show. Funky Kong, now a military guy for some reason, gives you weapons and upgrades, usually more ammos and lock-on ammos, and not only this counts as an extra form of attack, but it also opens new areas for you. Candy Kong gives you the power of music pretty much, and extra health as well. And as you can see here, Candy Kong is more sexualized, and well, her dialogue doesn't help either. It can be interpreted as innuendos. Snide gives you golden bananas anytime you bring a blueprint for him. These are the blueprints that King K. Rool Doomsday device, which was built by Snide himself, but K. Rool decided not to pay him, and now Snide is helping the Kong to stop him. And also, we got the banana fairies. Pretty much, they increase your items with every small banana fairies you catch, and the way you catch them is with this special camera. Some of them are pretty easy, but other ones can be very annoying, and I could swear does not have a certain pattern to follow. The one thing I forgot to mention in the Funky Kong section is the beta version of the guns. Instead of the written cartoony kinds, we get more of a realistic kind. Now most likely it's just a placeholder, but all I can say is that if this game came out during the time that Shadow the Hedgehog did, I'm pretty sure we have a lot of fans being outraged about this. The Worlds of Donkey Kong 64 is the biggest I ever played from RareWare. Now keep in mind I haven't played Banjo-Tooie yet, so my opinion may change once I get to that review. But when this game first came out, it was very ambitious to make a game this big. I remember as a kid playing this, I had a lot of fun exploring the place, and I thought that was one of the greatest games ever. But playing this game now, unfortunately, I don't think it aged well for me and anybody else who played this game. Now, I'm not going to talk about every level in the game, just a few that really stood out to me. Out of the 7 worlds, well, 8 if you count the hub world, none of the worlds are really memorable to me, except for maybe the annoying parts. When you have at most 3 Kongs, exploring the land is actually pretty fun and fine for the most part, but once you get all 5 Kongs, specifically in Frantic Factory, which is the third world of this game, things doesn't go very well. Exploring the place now becomes very tedious, mostly because in that stage you need to have one Kong to open an area for another Kong, and keep this in mind, this is a constant thing that happens throughout the game. Before I continue with the world, I need to mention the collectibles because they too play a big part of the gameplay. Now each Kong had their own items to get, like golden bananas, color bananas, banana coins, and blueprints. The only thing they share among the Kongs is oranges, emeralds, and crystal coconuts. Now my strategy when playing this game was to explore one section of the world with every Kong and then move on to another section. That doesn't sound too bad on paper, especially when there's tag barrels spread around the world, but sometimes you need to get one Kong to explore an area for another Kong, like I mentioned before with Frantic Factory. This usually caused me to go back and forth a lot, and although that doesn't sound as bad as I'm making it out to be, it still ruins my enjoyment of the game. I have tried exploring the world with one Kong at a time, and although it is less tedious than my original strategy, I kept losing track on which item and section I haven't explored with that Kong. But to be fair, that's really a problem on my part. If you're able to keep track of everything a certain Kong you play as, I would really recommend this strategy. Now in my opinion, I think there are too many collectibles in this type of game. But to be fair, I think it's really more to do with the Kong having their own collectibles to get, rather than the amount of collectibles themselves. It just starred one character and the collectibles remain the same, only they get be complaining too much about it. Now to be fair, the collectible items do have a purpose. The golden bananas help you open other worlds. The color bananas, collect enough of them, 75 can get you banana medal, more on that a little bit later, and you also need them to get to the boss battles. Banana coins used as currency to buy those weapons and upgrade our mission area, and the blueprints are very important for hideout helms. I don't want to spoil too much, but pretty much hideout helms has a time limit for the Doomsday device, and the more blueprints you get, the more time increase on that timer. On top of that, there's 3 items that you need to get to the final boss of the game, and that's the King K. Rool crowns and the Nintendo and RareWare coins. The King K. Rool crowns is pretty easy. You find this great platform throughout the world, you transport to it, and pretty much you'll be put into a brawl, survive the time limit, and you win the crown. There's 10 of them, but you only need to get 4 of them. The coins, however, well, going back to the banana medals, you need to get 15 of them to access one of the games, and that being the very first RareWare game, Jetpack. You need to get a certain amount of score to get the RareWare coin, and that's pretty much it. And the Nintendo coin is pretty much the same thing. Go to Frantic Factory, play as Donkey Kong to pull the lever, and you play emulation of the original Donkey Kong game for the arcades. Pretty much you play throughout the whole game twice, one normally and the other one rescuing the Nintendo coin, and that'll be it. Now during this time, this was considered the best emulation of the Donkey Kong arcade game. If you remember, the NES version of Donkey Kong was missing one level. Now with all that being taken into consideration, it can make traveling the world feel more like a chore than an actual exploration and adventure. It doesn't help that the world are pretty mediocre by design. Now, Jungle Jade and Angry Aztecs are pretty decent and simple for the first two levels. I never really got lost in them, and there's a handful of areas that are pretty interesting, like the temples. And the only annoying part in Angry Aztec in particular is that one statue where you need to use Diddy Kong's jetpack to do pretty much a number of things to get a golden banana. But to be fair, that's really more of the poor jetpack controls rather than the actual level. The jetpack controls are very sensitive and it's hard to control where you're going. Now, Fatek Factory, I already explained how annoying that was, and Grimmy the level after that, had a similar problem at first, but to be fair, it's not as annoying, and for an underwater level, it's actually not that bad. Exploring underwater was fun, especially going inside the second ship and treasure chest, which has a few Easter eggs in there. I just wish the place was more colorful. Now to think about it, most of the worlds are pretty dark by design. I wish there was more place that was bright and lively. I mean, I get that the game's supposed to be darker compared to Banjo-Kazooie, but I wish they had more worlds that looks more lively. The only thing interesting about Fungi Forest is that it used to be, a Banjo-Kazooie level, which I mentioned early on, and the day and night cycle that explores, other parts of the world. Just like in the original 3 Donkey Kong games, there are also bonus mini-games for the most part reward you with a golden banana. Some are pretty simple, like destroying all the enemies, going through a maze, and collecting some coins, but here are some of my most like and dislike games. I really like the minecart section where you collect a certain amount of coins at the finish line. Sure, it can be cheap with some of the enemy placement and the TNT barrels especially, but I really like the levels design and how Rare made each of them pretty unique from each other. The races are made too complicated, in my opinion, than it should be. Most of the time, not only that you need to win a race, but you also need to collect a certain amount of coins while avoiding getting hit by the enemies. Usually the ladybug, that's really the most annoying part of that race. I really hate the beaver minigame. It's mainly because I don't understand the physics of the game. Like, when I thought that they're going straight to the hole, they're usually blocked by some kind of invisible wall. The rest of the minigames are pretty decent or forgettable. It's really not much to talk about. The boss battle is definitely the best part of the game. Although they reused 2 boss battles twice, each of them has a unique way of fighting them. Like the giant fish boss, you just go through the rings while avoid getting hit by his attacks. Now, although that sounds pretty easy, it's actually a lot harder than it looks. The creepy castle boss is pretty much a giant cardboard cutout of King K. Rool, which I find hilarious. There's a few funny moments in this game. Now, the pattern looks pretty random, and especially when the camera is working against you, you can't really tell where he's going, but his pattern is actually very simple. He just goes around in a circle, and once you enter a barrel, he pretty much stops in that location. And my favorite boss battle is Mad Jack, hands down. His strategy is pretty much hitting the right button, and there's 2 of them, and you need to hit the button that has the same code that Mad Jack is on, pretty much. The only slightly, and I do mean slightly, disappointing boss battle is actually the final boss battle with King K. Rool. Now, the fight is good and all. There's 5 different phases, and all of them are pretty fun, but I don't know, I was expecting something darker to match the character in this game, but instead they go with a more comedic approach. But other than that slight nitpick, I really love every boss battles in this game. One more comment on the King K. Rool boss battle before I reach my final thoughts. Now, each of the Kong has one match against K. Rool, starting with Donkey Kong all the way to Chunky Kong. I feel like they got that backwards because I feel like Donkey Kong himself should have had the final blow instead of Chunky Kong. Again, this is a slight nitpick, but it kind of bothered me. Donkey Kong 64 was a game I really enjoyed back when it first came out and when I played it as a kid, but playing it now, it did not age too well due to all its backtracking. Now, to be fair, I did still find some enjoyment in this game, especially when I played it the first time on a virtual console, but when I was recording it for this review, it became really tedious and I became a little frustrated because of that fact. Mainly because I didn't really take too much time off the game and try to play this game in one sitting, so my advice is that take some break when playing this game. It's a pretty big game, but you do get some enjoyment, just take some breaks. Now, comparing it to other RareWare games on the Nintendo 64, it's probably the second worst RareWare game. Emphasis on RareWare games, Brass Court being the first. Now, when I say that these being the worst compared to the other RareWare games, they're still pretty good games because RareWare made a lot of great games during that era. And Donkey Kong 64 is a decent game in itself. Now, I wouldn't recommend it to those who are new to the platformer exploration games, but for those who are already a fan of this type of game, you will still find some enjoyment on it, especially of how big the game is. You definitely go to get your money's worth, but as I said earlier ago, take some breaks. Now, Donkey Kong 64 sold a little over 5 million worldwide, which sounds great and sounds like a huge success, but keep in mind that it was bundled with the expansion pack, and according to Chris Morrow, a programmer at Rare, adding the expansion pack cost them a fortune, and it sounds like the game was not very profitable. Reviews for the game was actually very positive when it first came out, but now reviewers see this game for its flaws and even success that Donkey Kong 64 killed the whole collectathon platformer genre, which I may make a video on that alone, maybe. Sadly, this is the last Donkey Kong game that Rare has ever made. There were 2 planned Donkey Kong games in development, Donkey Kong Coconut Crackers and Donkey Kong Racing, but was cancelled when Microsoft bought them. Donkey Kong games were still being made by different developers, like the Donkey Konga series was made by Namco, Donkey Kong Jungle Beat was made by Nintendo themselves, specifically the same group that made Super Mario Galaxy. Donkey Kong Battle Blast was made by Payon Studios. I'm pretty sure I mispronounced that, but it's a small independent party that usually works for Nintendo every now and then. And Donkey Kong Country Returns and Tropical Freeze by Retro Studios themselves. Thank you for watching my review. My next retrospective is on Perfect Dark for the Nintendo 64, but I'll be playing the Xbox Live Arcade version. And if you'd like to see more of this video, whether it be regular review or retrospective or even let's plays, consider backing my Patreon accounts where you can make requests on what kind of game I will play or review. Thank you for watching.